feel really bad because after we recorded Game of the Year, I'm like, cool, I'm not gonna have to record anything for another year. Um,
And grow it out.
I haven't shaved in literally a year because when I was looking at the 2020 Game of the Year, it's like, oh, I had facial hair then as well, which I didn't realize. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna see how this is doing because it's been a whole year because I grew it in the first place to cover up my pandemic weight.
Right.
Um, and I shaved it, and I looked in the mirror and immediately decided, yeah, that's not for me. Um,
That's what happened to me when I shaved mine, remember?
but it's like, fuck, I now am in this like shitty early period where I shaved what 4 days ago, but it's
Hmm.
like I have very pale skin and very dark hair, and it kind of looks like complete shit.
That's
But I
fine.
just have to muscle through it. If
Cool.
you're
Well, I
gonna
guess I can,
host, I will
yeah, I
defer to
can start
you.
us off. You ready? Or are you still bitching about Mass Effect 3?
No, it's I'm always gonna be bitching on Mass Effect 3. I'll try to work it into this one, but no.
Okay. But we're talking about Time Splitters 3. But yeah, so welcome to the gritty Zack Snyder-esque reboot of Colossal Backlog, guys. Um,
I think that series was called Shorty's Backlog, but
no, it was Colossal Backlog, guys, because it matched with the what you call it, the
oh
acronym.
yeah, that's the acronym. I did enjoy that series.
I
For
did
like the
all
two
two
the two
episodes.
episodes we did of it. I think that series had legs.
Yeah. So originally, what we did was we both have huge Steam backlogs. So we were just going alphabetically through it, doing it kind of like a let's play kind of thing, where each one got like 10 minutes or so. It was something like that. But now instead of that, um, we both worked at GameStop or a video game store that's very corporate. I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
but
We
we
worked at the one-stop shop for video games.
yeah, for pre-owned soup.
Yeah, Soup Stop. Buy and sell used soup.
But amassed just a huge video game collection, yours larger than mine. Um, but you've played a lot of yours, and I have not. So I've had this Atlas level weight of video games weighing on my shoulders. So I decided that this year, 2022, I'm going to start working on my backlog a little bit. And having the Time Splitters go on sale. I do own them. I have it. I have it right here.
Hey,
There we
well,
go.
you fucked up with your full background there.
I know. There we go. But this is the one
We've
we're
got our
talking
props
about.
ready.
I think oh man, I saw online. I don't know why I didn't check ahead of time, but in some regions the disc art is a monkey.
I don't have monkey art. I do have the officially licensed NFL seal on mine. So yeah, you 48 hours ago approximately.
Yeah.
Actually no, I'll go back. You maybe a week ago kind of told me like, hey, we should revive the backlog thing.
I think it was
And
longer ago than that.
maybe to what is time anymore?
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
we're in a pandemic again, never left. It's time is a nightmare. Um and you're like, hey, we should revive the backlog thing. And then myself, always game for anything where I can share my opinions about things. So yeah, sure, just let me know when. Because you're on all sorts of things. You do your record night, you get drug along on my misadventures, you got all sorts of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I'm spinning a lot of plates.
So I assumed this would go much like the trajectory of the Futurama podcast, where we wouldn't actually do anything. But then 48 hours ago, you say, "Okay, we're doing Time Splitters Future Perfect," and I said, "Fuck it, we ball. Why not?"
Yeah, so I didn't expect us to be doing it this quickly,
You
but
forgot who you're dealing with.
right, I purposefully didn't tell you until I'd almost beaten the game that that's what I wanted to do, because I know as soon as I start a game, I'm going to be like, oh, let's do this one, and then you'll finish it, and then I'll lose interest somewhere along the way, or I'll finish it 2 weeks later.
Honestly, fair. And I didn't want to lose your momentum So I dropped everything I was doing to finish it, to just play through it, especially when you said it was really, really short. But the other thing that spurred
Yeah,
this
what was
is,
do you know your playtime on it?
oh gosh, it could not have been longer than 8 hours. They don't track your stats for the original Xbox games, but I did
Yep.
want to.
It does like in game though.
Oh, I guess I
I
don't.
hit I hit 4.5 hours.
Okay, I
It's
bet.
very short.
I would say I bet mine wasn't that long. The only time I can think of like that I actually like lost time to in it was during the Harry Tipper mission. I was playing through it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna knock this up to hard because I'm kind of
Mhm.
just breezing through this. Got to the sniper segment on that level
Fuck,
and
fuck that part.
promptly knocked it back down to normal. I found this unfortunate for two different reasons because the first one being I found normal to be too easy for the whole game. I found hard to be too difficult for at least that mission, but I have beaten this entire game on hard before.
Mhm.
But yeah, these games they probably won't be by the time this actually airs. But these games are $2.50 right now on the Xbox Live marketplaces. They were part of the final round of backwards compatible games, and if you
Mhm.
run them on like an Xbox Series X, Xbox One X, something like that, it up converts it into 4K. Looks really, really, really sharp. It makes it very apparent when they decide to give Cortez five fingers or when they decide to give him a weird three-finger unit.
Oh yeah.
Really easy to see that. But yeah, they're on sale right now.
Where
But I
they
think
ran out of the animation budget.
they're like $10 normally, or if you have Xbox discs flying around, like I've got a disc of two up there, you can just pop those right in. They did not do the original game Timesplitters, which is not worth anyone's time, is
Yeah, not
not
great.
on the service. But really that's no big deal. So yeah, we played through Future Perfect, which is my Timesplitters game. We
Mhm.
have historically, well, we both do have an appreciation for each other's favorite Timesplitters games. Ryan is more of a Timesplitters 2 individual. I am more of a Timesplitters Future Perfect
Yeah,
individual.
which we may hit Timesplitters 2 at some point in the future because that's another game I have not beaten because it has a bullshit level in it that I couldn't get past when I was younger. So I don't want to make any, I guess, like I'm very much a Timesplitters 2. In my memory, I'm a Timesplitters 2 guy because it feels more spiritual successory to the Perfect Darks, and this feels like it was more inspired by what was going on in shooters. It feels very like feels kind of Half-Life 2y at times. It's got its gravity gun that they didn't do very much with. It's got its vehicle segments that barely exist.
I mean, and also I feel like a lot of that is Halo reactionary.
Oh, for sure,
Um,
yeah.
Halo
But
coming out in
they
2000,
dropped the objective stuff almost altogether.
and like that's one of the things that really frustrates me about it is they like have this idea that, or like they try to present it to you that you're doing objectives, but every mission is a linear thing. You have to do everything. Like it's not actually objective based,
Yeah,
which
they
I feel.
turned they even did like some dialogue that makes it sound like they're giving objectives. Like there's a point during that Harry Tipper mission where Harry's like, yeah, man, we need to don't tip anybody off. And then you get spotted almost immediately and it doesn't fail you or do anything like that.
Yeah, it just like they do a lot of that where it's like, oh yeah, you should try to do it stealth, and then the punishment is just a slap on the wrist if you
Mm-hmm.
manage to not do it. But Time Splitters Future Perfect was my first Time Splitters. I played it on the GameCube with my friends at the time, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was one of those where we're just gonna hop in here, we're gonna play split screen,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just gonna play for hours and hours and hours. And by virtue of that, we always wanted to have all of the characters available. While the characters do by default have like different stats between them, we would always just end up turning those off so we could just kind of play as whatever character models we wanted to play as. But in doing this, I or we as a unit wanted to unlock every single character available. So like I have at some point in my life every arcade, every challenge, campaign, hardest difficulty. I have done everything in that game. So I was extremely disappointed when I turned it to hard to get smoked as bad as I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's definitely a feat because there is so much shit to do in this game. So across three modes, you got a campaign, you got arcade, which is kind of like it's mostly just like the multiplayer thing. You got a challenge mode. Campaign has 13 levels, three difficulties. I mean, it should only take you about 4.5 hours, but if you're playing on hard, I've heard it can get up to like 8.
Checking how long to beat puts it at a main story 7 hours, main story plus extras at 16, completion is 32 and a half. And
It's a
I
huge
think
range.
even that sounds a little short, but also I was like, what does a kid know about trying to efficiently 100% the game?
Right. The arcade mode, for unlocking stuff that you'd have to go through like the league, which has 3 different difficulties with like 3 games and 3 rounds, and the challenge mode is 7 challenge rounds and 4 or 5 levels apiece. Like it's just there's so much to do in this game.
And fortunately, all of this, almost everything they lock behind those, it's just what's essentially cosmetic, or it's characters. There are a couple that they do gate weapons. Like you don't have the brick by default in multiplayer. You have to do one of the challenges for that, but they don't make you even do it at like the hardest difficulty. So it's fairly easy to unlock. So like honestly, I can't leverage any legitimate criticism against the system.
It's all worth like playing with, because I finished up the campaign, which I mean I liked. We'll just kind of focus on the campaign and then move to the other stuff. But the campaign has a pretty decent story. It's the only one that really kind of has a story. 2 is like you're kind of like quantum leaping into people, like taking over bodies in different time periods, and then doing enough of the objectives so the time crystal shows up, and then you get to a wormhole.
Yeah, which is then like a slight improvement over the way the original Timesplitters works, which is literally just like, hey, we're going to drop you in this thing, get to the.
It was challenges. That's all it was. It was like you run through a level and then you run back out of the level.
Yeah. But no, this one. I think you could consider this one to have like an actual story. Like, we are going to deal with these characters. Like it features Cortez, his handler, the myriad of characters who appear through each level. Because rather than quantum leaping into someone, you just kind of are in there and are battling alongside them like a AI companion.
Yeah, and including running into yourself multiple times.
So I guess like if we're this is the thing that I think I like the most about Future Perfect, is the looping back and helping yourself in these like little self-contained time loops. I have ever since I first encountered this, I have thought this was a cool mechanic, and
it's still cool. I think it still holds up.
And it's played very largely for laughs because Cortez, the main character, is a fucking dipshit idiot. But he's endearing as hell. But he's great. But
spends the whole time trying to get his catchphrase of time to split to catch on.
And every single time he gets stuck in a time loop, it's like he does not remember how it operates, even though it's an extremely straightforward thing. Like this operates on a very like linear, like one timeline thing. So like,
this isn't like primer shit.
No,
this isn't a complex time travel story.
Cortez has the key in the second part because Cortez drops it to himself in the first part.
Exactly.
How does the key get there to begin with? Doesn't matter. The game is not interested in entertaining these questions. It's very Futurama, Bender's big score, and nobody knows why Fry has a tattoo of Bender on his ass, merely that he does, and it was put there. And I honestly think this is to the game's benefit that they don't get in and like try to explain it, not do some like overcomplicated thing. Like it's fun time travel.
Exactly. Like a lot of it is just all of it. It's all played for comedy. Like the bad guy gets the idea for his bad guy plan because Cortez runs in and tells him like, you're going to go back in time and you're going to tell your past self that he can do this. And the bad guy's like, oh shit. Yeah, you're right. And then goes back in time to go like kicks off the story.
In the very first level, when Cortez crashes on the planet the main human colony planet, there is a person, like a mysterious shadowy figure who was like supporting the entire time, only to find out that then the second to last level of the game is you dropping in as that shadowy figure to provide support for the person for Cortez from the first mission.
Where you use my least favorite gun in the game.
God, that sniper rifle sucks.
It's so bad.
God, it sucks.
Oh my god.
I don't think that the normal sniper rifle, like you do the fucking Harry Tipper mission, is very good either. But that fucking sci-fi sniper rifle is terrible. And like be, well, I'll get to the all fire stuff in a second, but I really wish that like this game, like that mechanic could be used later, because the only like even kind of comparable thing I can think to it is like a Nier Automata, where it will record the way you menu through a segment early in the game and then
Uh-huh.
play back that exact recording when you are essentially on your second playthrough. I think it would be really cool if using, obviously it was PlayStation 2 era technology at the time. I know why they could not have done something like this,
Right.
but if I could look back at that and see my exact old Cortez route going through, that would be dope as hell. But like, nothing, I genuinely don't know another game that has a mechanic similar to this.
Mm-mm. I think the only thing, like gameplay wise, it's really cool because you're actually doing, whenever you do like support yourself, you're doing different things every
Yeah,
time you go through. So it's not like go here and shoot a machine gun and go here and shoot a machine gun. It's like, okay, you're going to be shooting down a helicopter here with a big old rocket launcher while the other person's shooting people off the roofs that are trying to get them.
or like the two of you are going through the same corridor, but one of you has a gun that only works on ghosts, the other has a gun that only works on zombies, and you're getting assaulted by both. So it's like you need to protect him from zombies, you need to protect him from like, and it goes back and forth like that, eventually culminating in four Cortezes doing different things, where you are having to get in and solve a hacking puzzle. You are then having to come in and shoot ground drones. Then you're having to come in and solve another hacking puzzle, needing to shoot down air drones. Like, and you have four Cortezes simultaneously, and you keep jumping into the portal, coming out, telling each one prerequisite pieces of information. It's really, really, really fun.
Yeah. I
Like
think
they,
the only part I don't like gameplay, it's all perfect. It's the cut scenes where like it's kind of funny early on because all they do is just repeat cutscenes, but because you're a different Cortez in it, it's like you're kind of getting a new context for it. But when you're like on like the second to last level or the last level and that same shit's happening, and you're just like they're just reusing cutscenes, and
yeah.
it gets really repetitive, at least in the cutscenes. But
And I think that like that is a joke gets played out kind of early on, but it's not the most grating thing by the end of it. And again, the
mhm.
campaign's so short that it doesn't even have enough time to overstay its welcome. But I think that mechanic would be really, really cool in something else. But the campaign, I think, so the chief difference between Timesplitters 2 and Timesplitters Future Perfect, outside of the cutscenes and I guess general presentation of it, is that they fundamentally play like two different eras of first person shooters.
Oh yeah.
Timesplitters 2 is, as you mentioned, it is very much the successor to Perfect Dark, which itself is the successor to GoldenEye, because it's the people who made GoldenEye on this team at Free Radical. Like they
Oh
left
yeah.
Rareware and they, well, oh, okay, hopefully that's fine.
Oh, what happened?
I got two monitors recently, and once a day they like to do this weird thing, and it just did the weird thing. It's over now, but it doesn't matter. So people from Rareware left to form Free Radical, who then obviously made that game that was super popular. Whereas Future Perfect, which came out in 2005, very much is like a modern first person shooter. Like
Mm-hmm.
even now, it plays like you would expect a modern shooter to, would, albeit a little bit of jank. You told me about the control problem you have, so before I even got into the game, I just custom mapped the whole
Yeah,
controller.
I had to spend like 5-10 minutes because you go in there and default the controls are inverted off the
Fucking
bat.
English, God.
Um, it's just a lot of like, aim down sights is like click a button which toggles it. Like it's all like very old first person shooter stuff where they like really kind of smoothed everything out. But you can very easily get it switched up to so it plays like your Halos or your Call of
Yeah,
Duties or whatever,
and I think that
which
like,
you don't need to do. But I still did it where I mapped left trigger to be like aim, and
mhm.
I was like aiming down the sights in a game that like you don't really need to aim down the sights, but it's
No,
like it's that muscle memory.
yeah,
Like
it
very often
feels
I'd just
right
be like,
to. And I think that like in terms of contemporaries, like Halo 2 came out in 2004, this released in 2005. So
mm-hmm.
this, in terms of like actual development cycles, had time to learn from Halo 1, not really learn as much from Halo 2, but there's a potential period there where like tail end of development might have overlapped with Halo 2 post release a little bit, but
Right.
I think it plays fine. Again, I never even fucked with the default controls, but I think it still holds up and plays completely fine.
Yeah. I still strongly suggest this game. Like
Yeah,
I just hanging out and just playing it by myself was great.
you are Mr. Boomer Shooter. So I
I
definitely
am.
consider this to be part of your area of expertise. But it does so many cool things. Like it's a really cool blending of those older and newer concepts because you still have like I'm gonna hold like 9 different weapons. Every
Right.
one of them is gonna have like an alt fire to it. And but you're also dealing with like aim down sights a little bit. You're dealing with what is kind of still largely a corridor shooter linear progression, not like a Doom level or like an old
Right.
explore around the place. No mission objectives outside of like the main things compared to like Timesplitters 2 or
Yeah,
a
the objectives are like built into the story.
yeah,
So it's
like
like, oh, you got to go deliver this thing. And it's like that's just the excuse to go from point A to point B.
yeah, which mostly just kind of feels like a tacked on carryover because it's like, oh, we have objectives because Timesplitters 2 has objectives.
Right.
But I still had an extremely good time with it. I didn't mess with the arcade stuff or anything like that this time around just because I wouldn't say I was on a time crunch, but I wrapped this up yesterday afternoon knowing that we would
Right.
be recording this morning, and I am in the middle of 2 other games right now that I am.
Got a lot
Uh,
going on.
so it's like, yeah, you said like, hey, play Future Perfect. So it's like, okay, let me close Mass Effect, let me open Time Splitters, and let's just get going on this and beat it in 2 sessions.
Yeah. I since I don't have Time Splitters 2 fresh in my mind, I don't want to spend too much time comparing it, but I think a thing that really the only thing that kind of bummed me out about this campaign is it feels like it doesn't have like the same level of doing stuff with the time periods you find yourself in.
Yeah, it's all just kind of set dressing.
Yeah, because in the first one, a level that really stands out to me is there's a level you go back to like the 1930s in I think like Chicago, and it's the whole level's based around like doing gangster shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the Tommy gun, but it's like people are driving around in the old like gangster ass cars. You're taking out like prohibition secret alcohol things. It's all like mafia based, and this one was like I think the closest they got to kind of capturing something similar was the haunted house.
Yeah,
Which the 90s isn't like a haunted house thing, but like a same kind of like vibe to something where it feels like everything that's in here is like an homage or a reference to something specific.
and
Also my favorite level.
See, that's a I don't know. I'll think about that over the course of this. It feels like less of an homage to time periods as it does to different video games.
Yeah, it does feel like they moved out of like referencing the times and it moved on to video games or movies.
Because there's
the haunted house is all it's horror movies.
Yeah,
that's
and
why
I mean,
like it. It's Evil Dead basically.
Yeah, it's
and
Evil
Resident
Dead, or
Evil.
yeah, Resident Evil. Where hey, we're gonna go into this mansion. It's got zombies and these fucked up horrible things in it. When you go to like the labs later in the game, like flat out, you are disguised as a Dr. G. Freeman. Like it comes by it honestly, and one of the things I want to talk about is the idea of a new Time Splitters, and I don't want to get there quite yet, just because I think we're in a good groove on the campaign. But yeah, like I think that they could do more with the individual themes because it's like, okay, when I go into the early thing during like when is the first mission set in the castle? It's like the 30s.
I want to
20s?
say it's like 1924.
And you go in there and
I don't know if it's like World War One or not because I'm bad with dates.
It's like here you get your Luger and you get like these guns at the time, and but then it's like, well, it would be shitty if you couldn't also get automatic weapons. So they kind of just said like, yeah, they brought like guns from the future, so you get a machine gun and you get your little weapons. But then it's like, okay, I'm then gonna go into the 60s. And it's like, well, you get a pistol, you get a machine gun, you get a sniper rifle. You go to the next level, which is the haunted house one. It's like, okay, you get a pistol, you get a shotgun, you get a machine gun. And they're all like different weapons technically, but functionally, all of the weapons kind of fall into these archetypes. And I think I really wish that they had done more to differentiate them. Because to your point, the horror level, it's like, well, at least in this one, you get a revolver, a baseball bat, a shotgun.
I think it's when you get the ghost gun.
The ghost gun's definitely there, but that only works on the ghosts.
Yeah, but you
obviously,
also
hence the
get two
name.
boss fights there, which I thought was cool.
And and then and like in the future levels, it's like okay, future pistol that shoots lasers, future assault rifle, future sniper rifle, but it's all just set dressing more or less.
Mhm.
And I do think that it would be way cooler in a Timesplitters 4, for example, if they could maybe do a bit more with the actual weapon variety instead of just like having 5 assault rifles that all do kind of the same thing, actually having 5 that feel different. And this gets into just a little bit of what development was like at the time, where it is easy to churn out assets and guns and like make minor tweaks because it's like art assets
Right.
at the time were so much faster where it's like now art budget is 60% of any given game's um development. So I don't think you, even if you made another one, like you're not going to get the like 115 or whatever fucking characters in multiplayer just because like all of those are fucking assets that need to be rigged, modeled, everything else.
Right.
But that's maybe my biggest complaint of the game is that it's a lot of like kind of surface level variety.
Hmm. But it still plays great. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
It's not like a huge complaint, but I think coming from a game that like is so, it feels like really like atmospheric, and every level feels very unique. Whereas this one, like it, instead of every level feeling unique, it's kind of like the whole game feels like one thing,
yeah,
which it feels like a great thing. But yeah, here I can run through the levels real quick. You got like future Mars, you got the whatever, like maybe World War I, you've got the 60s hippie with like some maybe Russia,
yeah.
got the
It's
haunted
like I
house, you
mean, because
got
Harry Tipper is like very clearly like an Austin Powers like a parody of a parody almost. Like it's like
right.
he's the sexy super spy.
Hmm. You've got like a near future, you've got like a future with like post-apocalyptic machine war kind of
Yeah,
shit, and that's really about it. And you tend to like visit levels multiple times or time periods multiple times.
yeah. Because
I
it's
guess
like
the other standout one is the Harry Tipper one. Like I don't like the opening part, but once you get on the train, I
the
really
train
like the
level's
train
incredible.
level.
Like it
Yeah.
is like I cannot think of a single bad train level in video games.
Mm-mm.
And I think that see when you said the thing about the mansion, it's like it made me pause because I think like gut reaction knee jerk, my favorite level is train level.
Train level's cool, but it is also only half the level.
It is only half of the level. It's also linear as shit. Every like it is the corridorist of corridor shooters
Yeah, I
being
mean
on a
that's what's
fucking
a
train.
train.
Um, but
Just a moving corridor.
I just think it's I train levels are fucking cool.
I
I
like
like
train
train
levels.
levels.
Yeah,
But
so I said early on that this game has 13 levels, which it does, but it really only has like 6 or 7
with
time
like a part one
periods.
and part two,
Exactly.
like every
Um,
level has like 2 missions to it.
yeah, which I mean the missions are they're different enough on their own, because it's like part one of the haunted mansion one is like the mansion, and then you get underneath into like some mines and maybe some labs. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, it's got some lab stuff in it where you can like put the different effects and you can like torture the fucking guy.
Oh
And then
yeah.
also like when you're infiltrating the lab, there's the part where you're sneaking in, you can like disable the lasers and stuff in the back half where you're having to kill the mutants.
Hmm.
So it's like they feel good like vertical slices of gameplay where each one kind of they don't really build on anything where it's more like okay this is this one idea we had, now you're going to move on to the next idea, we're going to throw this all
Exactly.
away. Which I think is totally fine. Like it keeps things very, very fresh, but at the same time, you never get that like satisfying conclusion of we're gonna put this all together now.
I think
Um,
the closest they got would be there's that room where there's mutants and there's soldiers, and you need to
yeah, you have to
like,
switch your gun out because
yeah, figure out like who you're going to prioritize. Cause I think because they hurt each other too. So I was
Mhm.
letting the mutants kill off some of the people. And then as they came at me, I'd take them out.
And you see that a little itty bitty bit later on with the robot war, but I think that's a lot less fun because you will have to like switch to your electro tool to disable shields, then switch to your actual gun to
Mm-hmm.
deal damage. But since you don't get that like third party interaction where it's like the mutants are fighting the soldiers, you're fighting, it's like a triangle there. They're all just fighting you. You're just kind of wasting time switching your gun. And
Exactly.
I don't think I think that's one of like the few parts of the game that I actually think like didn't work well for me. But whereas I think that they completely nailed it in the lab sequence.
Right. But luckily, like you said, they don't do a lot of building. So it's
Mhm.
like you got to deal with it for like maybe 15
Yeah, it's
minutes.
like the tank segment in the future part lasts like I guess you have to do it twice because it's past and future Cortez, but like
Mhm.
it's so quick that any given thing in that game, if you don't like it, it's gonna be gone pretty fucking quick,
Right. And then, but you
for
do
better
get
for
the,
worse.
yeah, you get the converse of that though, where if you really like something, you better savor it because it's going to be
Oh yeah,
gone
like I
soon.
could I could do a solid like 2 or 3 more segments in that mansion with those
Hmm.
weapons. Like that shotgun feels extremely good. Like decapitating things feels super good. The baseball bat, not so much. I think that game's melee weapons are extremely lacking, but
They do kind of have a weird problem with some of the damage tables on stuff. Like I feel like the bat, if you're hitting them right in the head, shouldn't take more than one hit.
yeah,
But I feel like I'm like, you zoom in, you go, and you back up.
yeah, it
You
feels like
go in,
fucking
you back up.
Morrowind combat.
And I felt the same thing pretty much about all the sniper rifles. That it's like if you're getting anything but a headshot, it's like 5 body shots to kill
Mhm.
somebody with a sniper rifle, and it's
A-
like,
And like
it's
I
kind of a lot.
know that like I know that these exist on PC, right? Right? Do
I
these
think
exist on
so. Maybe not.
So the way I felt, and this drove me up the fucking wall, or I guess the sniping specifically, very frustrating because if you are holding an assault rifle, like there's a little bit of sway, you're kind of bobbing up and down as you would expect. If you're holding a sniper rifle, nothing. It is the fucking most stable thing in the game. And the when you're doing the sniper missions, like the hitboxes on those headshots, you are dealing with enemies that are like moving, they're doing their own kind of like AI routines. You're not
Mhm.
swaying at all. So it's like if you aren't fucking on that shit and having to do it on a controller, a little bit frustrating. It's a headshot oriented game throughout the entire thing. Like that's
Oh yeah.
the one thing about the combat is like you can not just the sniper rifles, but it's like with an assault rifle, at least, sure, it's 5 body shots or 1 headshot, but at least with the machine gun, it's going to fucking come out faster rather than dumping like a whole clip of sniper rifle ammunition into it. So yeah, I think I can agree that like a lot of the damage tables could do with some rebalancing, but these are minor gripes.
Very minor. Still
Yeah.
highly recommend this game.
Yeah, and I think that's like maybe the one thing that stuck out to me. So because like obviously I've sat around and I've shilled Timesplitters my entire fucking life, but actually getting in and playing it again, like I thought I would walk away with a little bit more, I guess, kind of a rose-colored glasses feeling, where it's like, yeah, it's got some fucking flaws for, especially as someone who's been playing a lot of Halo Infinite lately.
Right.
But actually, as it turns out, nah, it this game is still extremely playable, and I again I like that they went with a more modern shooter approach for just this reason. Is I
Hmm.
think that you can still pick up and recommend Time Splitters Future Perfect to someone,
Oh,
whereas
for sure.
with Time Splitters 2 or the first one or Perfect Dark or Goldeneye or any of those, I feel like I have to put some asterisks on there of like, look,
Yeah, I mean, I
first
flat out
person
would
shooters
not
got better.
recommend the first one.
Oh yeah,
It
no,
was
I
it was a launch title for those, I think the
I
PS2.
have this as like a collectible. I literally don't think I've ever booted this disc.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
Time Splitters 2, I think my only asterisk for it, like the shooting feels a little weird because they hadn't quite, at least like the precise aiming, they do it in a really weird way.
Yeah.
Um, they also just don't really like make shooters like that anymore. They don't do
Mhm.
those objective based kind of things. So it might be something new, but I still think it holds up beyond. It has one, I can't remember what it's called, like meltdown or something like that. You're doing something in like a missile silo, it's underground. It top to bottom sucks on any difficulty. I've never beaten it. Um, Maybe I will uh, if we sit down and play that one.
If you drag me into Time Splitters 2, I might not be. I might be a little bit more vocal.
That's fine.
But also, that might be the only time I'm willing to get through Time Splitters 2.
Mhm.
So that maybe actually I do end up taking you up on
But
that.
hey, maybe I'll get more of a like, oh, this hasn't aged as well as like, because there's a lot of things, at least in that one, that I can point to through like memory is like, I prefer that, but maybe I actually don't anymore.
And I like I like the like sub objectives and like the difficulties of the game determining how many of these objectives you're needing to hit. Like I
Hmm.
like that feeling. Like if anything, Future Perfect might be a little too linear.
Hmm.
Like there's definitely such a thing as too open, and I'd say that mostly as a criticism, like leverage against like old InTech games, even like Doom and shit like that, where it's like here's this massive sprawling thing. Like I don't actually like that style of design, but I think something where I can maybe backtrack a little bit, kind of go do different things, like a little bit of off the beaten path side objectives, because the most
Right.
Future Perfect has is like, okay, open these cabinets, you might find like a health pack or something.
Hmm.
But other than that, you're basically doing the one critical path.
Shaking a lot of locked doors.
Yeah. And I guess this brings me to my point of this is since the Xbox 360 era, they have been teasing a Timesplitters 4
Hmm.
um, that obviously has not happened.
It got officially announced though.
It got announced, and then Free Radical made a little game called Haze.
No, like
Um,
recently.
well, I mean, yeah, but we're getting there. We're fucking getting there. There's a story's got a
All right,
beginning, a
you
middle, and
say
a
your
fucking
thing, and
end.
I'll shut up.
So fucking, they made a game called Haze, which
Do you actually
I
own it?
I don't even grace my fucking shelf with that fucking game. I'm so mad about it. Extremely bad first person shooter where you injected piss into yourself, and it flopped so hard that it killed the entire studio. At which point the devs kind of dispersed and went on to different projects. Notably, the largest cluster of them went on to do the Homefront games, which also not fantastic.
Yeah, they got bought by
Shooters.
like Crytek, right? And now they're
Yeah,
just like now they're like Crytek North or something.
and it came out recently that they have actually put all of Time Splitters 2, like a port of it basically, into Homefront 2, but you have to beat the game in order to fucking even get to it, which I
Hmm.
started to do, and I couldn't slog through that fucking game. But now that Microsoft has made these backwards compatible and with 4K upscaling and all that, it's like, oh, I've got absolutely no fucking reason to do that. Um, but they have now been embraced by the Embracer Group, formerly THQ Nordic, who, as part of their huge buying spree, more or less assembled the Time Splitters team again and
They
have
got the
them
band
working.
back together.
They have them working on a new Time Splitters project, or
Hmm.
rather, they have them working on Time Splitters. Now, whether that is Time Splitters 4 or whether that is a port, HD port of like 2, Future Perfect, whatever, that remains to be seen.
I
And
think this is, I don't know where I heard this or where I read it or anything like that. What I'm pretty sure it is this new Free Radical is doing Timesplitters 4, but it was announced in like the same way fucking like Metroid Prime 4 was announced, where it's like
yeah,
they put a thing up and then they put like the equivalent of like a notes app apology underneath it of just like, this is what we're doing. And that's it.
and
But there's been a fan project called Timesplitters Rewind that's kind of been in the works for a while. And I think THQ was just kind of like, all right, we're not going to fuck with you on that. So like go ahead, which is a like remastering of everything. And they recently in like December posted an update video and it's looking pretty good.
if if I was the Embracer, if I was THQ Nordic, um, I would probably not release a Time Splitters 4 into the current shooter market without doing, let's say, a lot of market validation that this is a thing that would sell.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why my theory has always been, yeah, you do an HD port of Future Perfect in 2. With this release on Xbox, I'm genuinely curious if that was able to get them any market data. Like how much did anyone even like get it and play? Because like given it's only on Xbox, but did that do anything to move the needle? Like it certainly sounds like they're working on something. And if they, they probably just started pre-pro when they made that announcement. So we got a solid 2-3 years before anything actually shows of it, I imagine.
Right.
But I was playing Future Perfect. And as I was going through, I was doing the minute to minute. The thing that I kept going back to over and over and over again was this plays like the new Wolfensteins.
Oh yeah.
The closest parallel I was able to find, it feels like those new Wolfensteins, because the thing that like I have to ask when things like, because it's like, yeah, I love Time Splitters. Do we need a Time Splitters 4? Like, what does a Time Splitters 4 even fucking look like?
Right. I
Is
feel
there a
like
market for
I
this?
need a Timesplitters 4, but
Yeah,
maybe the
I'd
world
love
at
one.
large probably doesn't.
But and it's like I'm going through this, it's like if they were to like make a new one of these, and then it kind of just hit me like if those Wolfenstein games sell and people like those, I think the world can handle and would be receptive to a Time Splitters 4.
Wolfenstein 2 had some pretty long train levels in it.
Yeah.
This has a train level. I actually thought of the Wolfenstein train level while I was playing the train level.
And like having the different guns, having the alt fires on the guns, like the new, like I think maybe the reason we like those Wolfenstein games so much is like actually these are kind of like low key time splitters.
Yeah, time splitters with like larger maps, but I mean
larger maps. You don't get obviously you don't get things like the different time periods, but I mean like in terms of
you do get
gameplay,
one time period though.
you
They do
do
it
get
really, maybe it's just one really long time splitters level.
The thing that I guess I obviously like storyline, you would probably just want to reboot the whole thing because they kind of reached a, I mean, at the end of the game, like it's, hey, good guys won, everything's peachy, everything's great.
Yeah, time splitters no longer exist.
Yeah, so you like you'd probably just want to do a reboot, whether that would have a rebooted Cortez or Corporal Hart or however you want to fucking do that.
You could reboot it, keep Cortez in his personality that it is in Future Perfect. And then if you're going to reboot it, like just grab the good levels from the game and just kind of like, you know.
Let's do a Western level. So this then brings me to my ultimate question, because it ain't 2005 no more. We're closer to 20 years on from Timesplitters Future Perfect. Do you do a parody thing?
What do you mean?
So like Timesplitters Future Perfect, it is clearly like parody driven. Like this, it's not like there are different levels of parody, obviously. I'm not saying this is like the epic movie of shooters, but every single thing is very much like either a parody of a certain genre, a parody of a game, or they're bespoke parody pieces.
Yeah, or they have this weird level of parody in this one where it doesn't feel like they're making fun of it. It's like an homage, but in a comedy game. So
yeah,
it
like tongue in, it's still very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
You still get, Joe Beth coming out with a shirt that just says slut, which is incredible.
That is one of the things in this game. Free Radical were incredibly horny.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Like
yeah.
all the female characters in this are well endowed and scantily clad.
And there are some like jokes that like I wouldn't say are offensive, but maybe I just wouldn't make them today. Like
specifically
I'm not saying
about like Joe Beth.
I mean, there's some stuff about Joe Beth because it's like she's very like questionably aged, and then Cortez is like, you know what, I'm going to go down the ladder first after seeing she's
so he can look up her skirt,
and also just like the different men wanting to wear the women's uniforms and kind of a lot of that. It's like not this isn't offensive, but I don't think you would write these jokes in
it's very early 2000s where it's like
that's my thing is I don't think a parody type delivery lands in 2024 whenever a Timesplitters 4 would come out. Like we just don't do that anymore. So here's what I'm saying: we do Timesplitters 4. It's going to be the Matrix 4 of video
hates
games.
its own existence.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a self-loathing shit. So that's kind of, it's like I think that gameplay design, you can make it like Wolfenstein, but how do you write Timesplitters 4?
I wonder if you just go back to something similar like Timesplitters 2. I mean, you could probably even still do like Future Perfect, but make sure it stays strictly in like homage over parody. And maybe pay attention to what you're parodying. Because, I mean, everyone loves Harry Tipper, and everyone's pretty much forgotten about Austin Powers at this point. So they'll think he's a completely original character.
Austin Powers 4 directed and starring Dana Carvey. It's going to be, it's going to fucking.
Maybe you just got to bring in like a younger writing team or something. Because, like, God, what comes to mind asking about this is like, the people who made Duke Nukem Forever were older.
And
the people who made Borderlands 3 were older than the writers of Borderlands 2. And it's like all of this stuff shows. If Cortez starts bitching about not being able to talk to anybody until he's had his cup of coffee, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind.
And that's the thing. Like, I think that so much of the success of 4 honestly hinges on the writing. And I think if they play it serious, it's losing charm. Like, I don't want a gritty, dark Timesplitters. I need it to have that like laughable, like that charm to it.
Needs to be colorful. It needs to be weird.
I don't want Rick and Morty the first person shooter, and the more I think about it, the more it's like this. That's what this would be, wouldn't it?
It
They
could
would
be.
like you can't. I don't think you can do the parody thing, or rather, I think what constitutes a parody nowadays and what constituted parody in 2005 are two very, very different things.
Right.
I I think the gameplay is easy to do. I legitimately don't know how I don't even know how I would write it. Like I don't think I am capable of writing even a theoretical great Time Splitters 4 script.
Right.
So good luck, modern free radical, with
Yeah.
doing this impossible task. Um, and at the end of the
Luckily,
day, maybe I don't need it because I fucking love that Halo Infinite. It's written like dog shit.
yeah, maybe it can just be written like shit as long as it's fun to play.
Because I would,
But
I'd
the good
love to
thing
just
about
hop
Time
on and do
Splitters,
that.
great thing about Time Splitters, is it's not just its campaign. It has two other fully fleshed out game
Oh
modes.
yeah, so yeah, let's talk about the arcade modes and shit.
Arcade mode is multiplayer, basically, and it's
Mhm.
a classic multiplayer. It doesn't have online anymore because it's an old game, but it has bots, and the bots are actually good.
Yeah, decent.
Like PUBG, what are you doing?
Like
So
again, it's easy to make a bot that just fucking kills the player. It's difficult to make one that the player can kill.
exactly.
And
But these, it's so like full packed. Like games are slacking nowadays, where it's like I feel like multiplayer stuff, you don't you kind of you get like some maps, you get some game modes. They keep taking game modes away because people are breaking their in-game economy because elimination is giving them too many points or whatever. This is like
and you also have to like maintain few enough hoppers to have players like consistently get a game. It's
mhm.
I do not envy anyone having to release a modern online shooter
God, me
nowadays.
neither. But back then, this was that you just give them everything so everyone's playing together, four-player split screen. It has 13 game modes: deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the flag. There's one that's like oddball, where it's like you have to carry it around for a certain amount of time. There's like an elimination. There's one that's like the better you're doing, the bigger you get, so you're
Yeah,
easier to kill. There's like a vampire one, but also a zombie one, like an infection. There's a kill confirmed kind of thing. There's zone defense. There's a base attack. There's like a juggernaut mode, and then a monkey assistant.
yeah, where it's like whoever's in last place gets a Mario Kart esque boon of monkeys that will just
Yeah.
spawn in and fucking ice people for them.
From
Um,
that, you've also got 15 maps. I think like 35 weapons included that a lot have alternate fires. They're from like all the different time periods. You can dual wield them. And then there are 150 characters to choose
yeah,
from.
which again, like I mentioned, they all have like different stats.
Stats, they all have voice acting and like animations when you pick them. Uh, there are normal designs, and then there are some fucking off the wall designs, like
Yeah,
just some of my favorite character designs. Like there's I got some shout outs. There's Eli Scrubs,
the
which is
Cactus Man,
a redneck cactus that has a car engine for a dick. There's the Shoal, which is like,
the floating whale, and all the fish.
yeah, it's like a school of fish with a whale who's wearing a top hat and has a pipe. There's a Robofish.
Who is it's a fishbowl with a robotic body. My one of
Yep.
my friends would always play as RoboFish in multiplayer.
There's one called like Handyman that his body's made of matchsticks and he has a glove for a head, and all of his voiceover dialogue is like, "I'm the glovener." It's all glove based humor.
There's just a dinosaur. There's just like mummies and
There's a
shit.
gingerbread man and
Robots.
all flavor of monkey.
Oh yeah,
There's
it's got
cyborg
Ninja Monkey,
monkey.
Cyborg Monkey, who is just RoboCop,
Yeah, there's
Zombie
zombie
Monkey, and of
monkey.
course your Vanilla Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
They love their fucking monkeys. Um,
Oh, and okay, so then that's regular arcade mode that just plays like a normal multiplayer thing. They also have something in there called League mode, which is like you do rounds of like hyper specific modified ones
mhm.
to go through, and they go up in difficulty. But like the arcade mode is actually why I never beat the campaign in these games. Is like I played them for a little bit, but
Oh yeah,
my time with this game was entirely just playing the multiplayer.
it's got a fucking map maker. fuck,
Map
like
Maker's great. Yeah.
in the year of our like
Fuck
2000,
you,
it's
Snap
like
Map.
yeah, it's like fucking I as much as like Halo kind of dominated the shooter scene at this time, it's like this was it wasn't a great map maker given it was extremely difficult to interact with controller, but they were trying. Like fuck you, Forge World. Like
Yeah,
we
they
were
also
they
did a lot of stuff in it where it's like it wasn't specifically just to do like a deathmatch level. It's like you could do like enemy spawns in it and
mhm.
choose when they spawn, and like you could basically make like a normal like level if
And
you
like the
wanted
attack
to.
and defend maps and shit like that. Like it's really robust.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love the arcade because you can, with all the different levels across time periods, they have, like recommended options where it's like, here's time specific weapons for what we're thinking in this level. Or you can just go in and fully customize stuff. They have like different sets of weapons that are like, here's your future ones, your explosive ones. But yeah, then just like custom ones where you're like, I like the revolver, but I also like proximity mines and all
Yeah.
this stuff. Like,
My one of our favorite game types that we would do in split screen is just prox mines only.
oh
So it's like
yeah,
you're having to just go up and like throw them like frisbees at each other, like backing up or just like throwing them all down. Like the Siberia map specifically, where it's just like the massive frozen open area,
Siberia map's great.
just doing fucking frisbee shit with prox mines.
I gotta say though, I think my favorite multiplayer level is, at least the one I spent the most time with, was a Mexican mission.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
So good. You're basically like fighting in the Alamo and then like a little area in front of it.
Um, see, Siberia was always ours. Like that was our like 1v1 Fox only. Like go on Siberia, and then it's just like okay, we're gonna like bricks only. That
Siberia has one of my favorite. I think it's an arcade. It's either an arcade or a challenge thing. I think it's arcade, where it's you with a sniper rifle versus a bunch of deer haunters
mhm.
running around. So it's like you're hunting basically, and you're having to like shoot them as they run around and try to get to you.
Um, there's also just like it's where they did like all the a lot of the cat driving courses
Mm-hmm.
around Siberia. It, I love that experience. Like obviously I did the campaigns because by virtue you have to do the campaigns to unlock all the fucking characters.
Right.
And but still that like hundreds of hours were spent. Like that was our, just hey, we played this like somewhere in this house. I have a GameCube memory card with a complete Timesplitters Future Perfect
Damn.
set of stuff and hundreds of hours on it. Like I I cannot believe that I mean, I guess, we were broke, like we're kids. You have to milk every single piece of content you can out of a game.
Right.
Um, and I think that it just delivers on that in spades. You don't get, I don't mean to be too much of a fucking boomer saying like, oh man, they don't make them like they used to. But like shit like Blockbuster meant that you had to have long ass game. You had to have a meritable reason to buy the game rather than just
Right.
it.
I mean, playing through this, I made sure to like write down notes of like all the features that were in here, because it's like after I finished the campaign, I was satisfied, but I'm like, I'm gonna hop into arcade and see if it's still good. And I was just like, holy shit, there's so much stuff here. And then I checked out the challenge thing,
and like
which
let's
we can even move on to challenge real quick.
um
It's weird
yeah.
ass game modes. You mentioned like cat driving.
Mhm.
It's just like little bits of like thing that you maybe experience in the campaign. They're like, yeah, let's do like an arcadey, like score based
Why not?
thing on this.
Like development time on that stuff must have been close to nothing because like, well, we already have the maps, we already have all the components to this. Like, let's just arrange them in these fun little ways. Like, I guarantee you, half of those things were just what their QA team would use to test different
Oh
things.
yeah.
And it's like,
But
yeah,
yeah,
what if
differing levels of difficulty on it. I know they have cat driving ones. They have ones that are just based around monkeys.
Mhm.
There was one I'm really good at, but I don't particularly like it. It's called like Monkey Disco, where monkeys show up on this disco map and you have to like keep robotic monkeys. You have to keep blasting them with this like electro zapper to keep their batteries charged.
Oh yeah, and they're
The
yeah, you have
gold
to
the gold time on that one is 4 minutes. I gave up at 12 minutes and just killed them so I could stop playing it. Because they weren't adding any more monkeys, and it's like, I can manage this no problem.
But then you also have things like the monkey sniper where you have to like shoot the melons out of their hands
Mm-hmm.
that are just
There's
like, oh, this is insanely difficult.
oh god, the sniping in this isn't great. They have ones that are based around zombies. They have ones that's like smashing things.
Yeah, where it's like, oh yeah, break all the fucking china in this china shop.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, they put like pots in places. Yeah, you're throwing bricks at shit, and then there's like shooting gallery ones where like cardboard cutouts pop out. You have to shoot the right things and get a certain number of points as you play through like older levels.
Oh yeah,
It
then
was
they have one
crazy.
that where it's basically just like, hey, this is what it would be like if we made Timesplitters 1 maps. Just like here, these are Timesplitters 1 missions just on these maps we already have. And also
Mhm.
like most of the multiplayer maps do not like there's no campaign analog to them. Like they are completely bespoke for multiplayer
Oh
maps where
yeah.
it's like I feel like nowadays it's like, okay, we have all these assets from this level of the campaign, let's build a multiplayer map out of it. Like that stuff is
Hmm.
all like video game art used to be really, really cheap. Let's look at Spyro the Dragon, where every single level has different enemies in it, completely original models. And this is the same way, where not a lot of assets getting reused. Um, it was a different time.
It was. But yeah, across those three game modes, like you can get hundreds of hours out of this if you want to keep doing the multiplayer and stuff.
Like genuinely shocked that their completionist rating's only 32 hours on this. Which
Right.
maybe if you're like, I guess the campaign's pretty short, like only it's 6, 7, 8 hours. So like if
I
you
mean, all
just
the
get
things
in
you need to
and
do shouldn't take you very long if you're good at it. Should take you about 32 hours. But I think you could get hundreds, if not thousands, of hours out of just playing the multiplayer thing over and over again.
yeah, like it's the same way that I spent so much time doing Halo 3 custom games. Like I think that were they to release something like this, where we could all just oh it's a Saturday evening, let's get on here and do Bricks Only Siberia, like that would be an enjoyable way to spend time. Like
Absolutely.
the arcade split screen, like that's where I spent almost all my time.
Same. Yeah, I barely messed with the campaign because it was like anytime I was booting it up, it's like I want to play multiplayer. And get my brother. We're gonna throw a bunch of bots on it, and we're gonna blast each other.
Fucking
There you can also there's also cheat codes you can unlock through gameplay,
oh yeah.
um, along with characters. But it's like I think I unlocked like cardboard, so everyone's like flat.
Mhm.
I don't remember what I only unlocked two. I wasn't good enough to get some of the
I
harder
mean,
ones.
I'm sure that I feel like there's a big head mode, but that honestly might just be like an in-game modifier by default.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Time Splitters Future Perfect, extremely, extremely good game. Like it held up dramatically better than I was expecting it to.
Me
Because
too.
I haven't gone in and like fucked around. I have not played through that whole campaign in probably shit. I said 20 years since that game came out. It's probably been 15 since I've played through that campaign. Like I've booted it up and like probably run that first mission a few times and then put it back down. Just be like, oh yeah, that's
I
fine.
think
But
of the times I played it, I maybe made it through part one of the haunted mansion part, and that was the farthest I ever really made it in that game.
being able to just have it installed on my Xbox and like knowing that that campaign is as short as it is, like I feel like I can kind of just like, oh, I'm gonna drop in and just clear Future Perfect this afternoon. Like I feel like this might actually replace like a Bioshock or something in my yearly. Just like what I feel, I'm probably gonna fuck with this game once or twice a year now.
It's a good
Run
like
throughs.
comfort game because
Yeah,
it's like I found myself even after like I was like, hey, do you want to talk? Because I was texting you, I was like, do you want to talk about like the multiplayer arcade mode? And you're like, well, I'm not gonna play it. I'm like, well, I'll hop in and do it.
yeah.
And then it was like when I was done taking notes and doing all that stuff, I'm like, I'm gonna play a couple rounds because like the default thing on there is I think it's first to 15 with some bots, and it's like that takes you like maybe 5 minutes. So it's like I would just hop in on recommended stuff and just have some fun for a little bit. Like
Yeah,
it's a very
like
zen game.
there's so many good guns in that multiplayer. Like there is a gun whose alternate fire like literally just lets you shoot through walls.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, that's what this gun does. There's the brick, there's the monkey
the
gun,
monkey
there's
gun's alternate fire is just to drain, or that might just be the regular fire is just to
yeah, it's just like
drain
empty
the.
the clip,
Yeah,
just
that's it.
fucking go. Like
There's no stopping it.
it's the game that gave me my affection for flare guns as weapons. Like just being able
Mm-hmm.
to do dual flare guns, and they've got one shot each. You're gonna fire it, and it's more or less like an RPG grenade launcher, where you
Yeah,
can't really aim it that well,
hard
but
as
you're gonna
hell to
fire it.
use.
But if you hit someone with it, it's a one hit kill. Bricks same way, where you're just like throwing these bricks. And it's like if you get a headshot with it, it's probably a one hit kill. But
Right.
um, I know I was kind of complaining in the campaign about it's like I feel like there's kind of like 5 archetypes and then guns that spin off from there. But like once you get into multiplayer, things like certain SMGs being able to attach like a grenade to it, or
Mm-hmm.
it's like things like that matter a lot more in the arcade compared to the campaign, which again, it's a headshot oriented game. Like it really just kind of wants you to be getting headshots all the time. So it's like, oh, I don't want to attach this grenade to my SMG because it's way more efficient to just run through here blasting normally. If that, like just use the fucking pistols for everything.
Exactly. Yeah, multiplayer, depending on what guns you choose, you could completely change up that having to get headshots thing.
Yeah.
It's like throwing some flamethrowers or grenades or, explosives.
It's unbelievably good. And I'm like, I don't think anyone that we shilled it to on this recent run is actually going to pick it up, even though it is $2.50.
$2.50.
$2.
At $10, it's more than worth it.
Which is its
normal price, like $10, but like $2.50. Like, please pick up this game. It's so good.
If you like those new Wolfensteins, I think that someone would feel right at home in a Timesplitters Future Perfect.
Yeah, or if you just consider yourself like a first-person shooter fan.
Yeah.
Like, this was one of those things, like this was big during the like PS2 original Xbox era, but it's like these are like classic games. This is the shit people are talking about when it's like, oh, I've been playing first-person shooters for years. Like this was the shit. Like this is what we played.
They have a cult status to them. Like it's always one of those where it's like, if a person brings up Timesplitters to me, it's always like, okay, you at least kind of know your shit. They're like one or two things below like super mainstream shooters where it's like, oh, okay, if you've played Timesplitters, like you've kind of done your research.
Yeah, but I would maybe now I would say I hesitate to call it like a hidden gem, but it's definitely like a lesser known.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't even say underrated, because it's like I was looking at the scores on these and they hovered right around 90 when they were first coming out. It's like, I think they're pretty fairly rated.
Anyone who's played them seems to like them, but
they've just kind of slipped into obscurity because studio died
and it was like Halo was the thing then. Like if you're talking about what was the breakout success of that era, it's obviously Halo. Like these things had to compete against Halo 1 and Halo 2. That is what they were like fighting for control over. And like fortunately Future Perfect was on shit like the PS2 and GameCube, so it's like, if you didn't have an Xbox, it's one of those. But it's like what even was like because it would be what Siphon Filter would probably be the PS2 one. And
Killzone?
Was Killzone PS? Yeah, or Killzone.
I'd say Killzone is probably the biggest. I mean, that was the Halo killer, at least for PlayStation. I think
I exist in the future also.
Yeah. I think just Timesplitters got stuck on those consoles. They never made one like a later one. It's never been remastered. It's just started now getting ported. So I think it's just one of those things. It's just like it kind of just got lost to time, ironically.
Yeah, and like on a GameCube, you're probably not the shooter market anyway. It's like I'm looking at my shelf here. It's like what the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon games. Like,
sorry, what are you trying to figure out?
I'm just trying to like what was this competing in the market with? Like other than Halo being like the major one.
It was competing with those really good James Bond games.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's competing with Nightfire.
So it's like a GoldenEye fan is gonna play Agent Under Fire or Nightfire, which are also. You know what? If we had to do another episode of this, maybe we fucking boot up some fucking Agent Under Fire and Nightfire.
Maybe I don't think I've ever. I don't know if I've finished those either. Again, these games have such good multiplayer modes that a lot of my time was spent doing multiplayer stuff over doing the campaign.
Do I own Nightfire? I should own Nightfire.
You should own Nightfire. Both that and Agent Under Fire are amazing.
See, Agent Under Fire was the one I spent all of my time with. Do I not fucking own Nightfire? Son of a bitch. I don't think I own Nightfire. I should fix that. Oh, nope, there it is. It's Platinum Hits Xbox games with white font of game title.
Neat. I bet that looks fantastic on your shelf.
Yeah, I've got Agent Under Fire, From Russia with Love that has literally never been booted, and Nightfire. I can see them from here. That Agent Under Fire I was given as a gift from my dad, but it wasn't backwards compatible on the Xbox 360.
Oh,
so
really?
I have simply never played it. And I've heard good things
I have
about
it on. I think I only have them on PS2, so I would need to hook up my PS2.
Hey, that's a lot easier than hooking up a fucking original Xbox, as someone who had to try to hook up a fucking original Xbox recently. But yeah, not to lose the thread too much. It bums me out that these weren't more successful. And it's like fucking EA published like at least Future Perfect, because I think, well, here I can look at it on the box, I guess. Like
Yeah.
Timesplitters 2 is Eidos, and yeah, Timesplitters 1 and 2 were Eidos, but Future Perfect had EA publishing it. So like it had probably a decent push around it, because even in EA at that time, it's like they're doing SSX, things like that. Like
Oh yeah.
it wasn't quite like modern EA, but they were putting money behind shit.
I mean, I guess I don't know what the market was like at that time because I was pretty young. But like these were big games, at least to me when they came out.
Oh yeah, like in my it's like that was before I was studying games like super critically, because I didn't get that started until like high school, like late high
Right.
school. And I had fucking found but the only reason I played fucking Timesplitters was because the kids that I hung out with introduced me to Timesplitters. Like it's not even like
Right.
I didn't bring this to them, they brought it to me.
But it's like it had to have had some push then when it came out because I feel like as kids we're not learning about shit that we're not seeing.
Yeah, it's like I had a Game
on
Informer
TV.
subscription, but even
Right.
then, it's like I'm not the one who found the fucking game. And maybe it is just one of those like the fortunate thing about blockbusters of you just go there and you see all these games, and it's like I'm looking at this cover, and I'm looking at like the words Timesplitters, like that seems like a thing I would like want to fuck with.
That seems cool. You know
Like that
what?
seems
I
cool.
think this is just speculation. I also,
This is a cool cover.
yeah, keep holding on to that one. That's part of my speculation.
Okay.
Um, I think us cool people were introduced to it because that Timesplitters 1 was a PS2 launch title. So when there wasn't very much to buy, the person who's got a PS2 early is buying Timesplitters. You try it and then it continues on. Because that was what I first played was some multiplayer of the original Timesplitters, but that was after 2 had already come out. So I was like, oh fuck, I'll just get 2 now. That's how I was introduced.
I was
So I
not
wonder
a
if
launch PS2 person.
but were you friends with someone who's a launch PS2 person?
I told you GameCube. GameCube. I was a Nintendo household man. I played this game on GameCube.
But what about the people who introduced you to it?
No, GameCube. That's what I'm saying. We all played on GameCube. I didn't play
Crazy.
Timesplitters 2 probably until I met you.
Wow.
So
I'm the cool person introducing you.
Future Perfect was my Timesplitters. Like that was my game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've never finished Timesplitters 2, because I don't like GoldenEye. I don't like Perfect Dark. I don't like Timesplitters 2 really. Like I respect
maybe I'll hold off on playing through that one for a little bit.
And see, that's the thing though. If you do though, it's like this is going to be my last best hope to fucking play it, and it's also backwards compatible it's on the Xbox as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one I actually have a physical copy of, because I went out and bought one on eBay the day it got announced, because it was still very cheap.
Yeah, not sure what our next episode will be. We'll see what strikes my fancy when I'm looking at the shelf, and maybe you'll be able to play it too.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna continue my thing of you send me a message saying, hey, you should play this, and then I will say, okay, got it, and then beat it within 48 hours.
Yeah, or you'll say, ooh, I don't really want to play that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well, then I'll talk at you about it.
That's the thing though, like my time's worthless. I'll
Right.
I'll play fucking anything, because chances are if it's one you're deciding to play, I either want to know more about it or I already would. It's like, no, I'll talk about that fucking game.
Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of shit and I want to play it. And I think this is a good way to do it if there's some like destination where I can, kind of talk my thoughts out.
Yeah, and I'm always down to talk about Timesplitters. In fact,
well,
we should pin those motherfuckers down. See, I blew my load with getting in to play Windjammers. I needed to hold back a little bit.
Well, I'll try it.
But with that, I don't think I've got any other remaining thoughts other than Timesplitters Future Perfect whips ass and is $10 on Xbox.
Yes, please play it.
Please play it. Let's see. They've got it's a monkey, but he's dressed like RoboCop.
Yeah. It's all you need. It's got cool. There's just your regular.
You really fucking you fuck the dog with this background. It seems See, I was ready to do my prop comedy.
Maybe. So there's a monkey there.
And her shirt says slut.
It does still say it on the back.
Like, it's a shirt. It's one of those shirts where I would love to own the slut shirt,
Right.
but no one will get that reference, and that's fucked up.
Oh, you got to wear the rest of the outfit.
Okay, I've got the skirt already.
Perfect.
We exist in the shittier timeline where Halo took off, and I'm not playing Timesplitters Infinite right now.
Right,
which is
where
what
they
I
finally
should
introduce the they give Cortez a grappling hook.
Fuck yes.
Like, 4 games in, they finally let you jump.
Yeah, that was the other weird, like, I guess I don't want to dwell on that for too long, but like I kept trying to jump. Like, it feels like I should be able to jump.
Yeah, this was back when like you just couldn't jump in games. I feel there were a few games, specifically shooters, that I was playing. I'm like, fuck, this is the time before like jumping was standard in a lot of games.
And you have reflections, even like it has working reflections.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, jumping's for the Mario.
Yeah,
they're not going to give Mario
does.
a gun. Not yet.
They were probably just like, you know what, Zen really sucks, and if we don't give our developers or our designers a chance to make a first-person platforming level, they won't make one.
Big brain.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Future Perfect, no bad levels. Same cannot be said for Half-Life.
We've been the guys. We've been the guys, and our backlogs are Colossal. And with that,
I already forgot that was the name.
It is Dash. It's time to split.
It's time to split.
No, I think that's a good name for it.